This open-end laboratory project helps students to gain more understanding on Chapter 8. A fundamental concept in physics, the coefficient of static friction measures the resistance to motion initiation between two stationary surfaces in contact. It shows the proportion between the normal force pressing the two surfaces together and the maximum static frictional force that must be overcome to initiate movement. To calculate the coefficient of static friction, we use the formula the maximum of static frictional force over the normal force.
The objective of this experiment is to determine the coefficient of static friction between the rope and the fixed drum. A part is 500 ml bolt, 1500 ml bolt rope, a fixed drum.
The methodology of this experiment is firstly, both 500 ml bottles and 1500 ml bottles were filled out with the same volume of water starting at 200 ml. The bottles were hung on a fixed drum as shown in the figure. The water in 1500 ml bottle will top up gradually and stop once the rope is slipped towards the 1500 ml bottle. The final volume of water in 1500 ml bottle were recorded. Step 1 until 5 were repeated by using different volume of water of 300 ml and 400 ml. The coefficient of static friction for each volume of water were calculated.
Searching for your trace in the dark.
In this slide, we are presenting the result of an experiment designed to calculate the coefficient of static friction between two different amounts of water in 500 milliliters and 1500 milliliters bottles. The formula that we are used has been shown in this slide. At 200 milliliters, the coefficient of static friction was 0.2206. At 300 milliliters, the coefficient of static friction was 0.2461. And the last one, at 400 milliliters, the coefficient of static friction was 0.2206. So, from this result, we observe that the coefficient of static friction ranged from 0.2206 to 0.2461.
Discussion. The main objective of this experiment was to determine the coefficient of static friction between the rope and the fixed drum. Through careful data gathering and also analysis, numerous essential aspects has been identified and also analyzed. One of the most important observation of this experiment was the relationship between the volume of water and the force applied. The observation has made that when the volume of water increases, both the tension and also the normal force also increases. The result shows the experimental setup provide a fairly consistent static friction coefficient with slightly variability due to an measurement error, variation in the surface condition, or minor differences in the experimental setup such as uneven weight distribution. Despite minor variation, the coefficient of static friction remains close to an average, data indicating reliable experimental procedures. Lastly, in order to improve and minimize the measurement error in this experiment, make sure that the surfaces in contact are clean and dry, which can lower or raise the actual friction force. Next, use accurate measuring cylinders or digital balancers to measure the volume of water more precisely.
The experiment has successfully demonstrated amongst to determine the coefficient of the strain fraction by using a system to different sides of battle that tear in rope and hung a fixed stream. The result shows that the coefficient of the strain fraction can be calculated using the ratio of the minds of the haver between that experiment slipping moment the minds of the latter better. The result also demonstrated that her values are consistent, confirm the produced accuracy and straining the happiness that the fractional force and determined by the normal force acting between the dream and the rope. The experiment has provided